I just got done watching the season 2 of The Boys, and oh boy, it was a head-smashingly good time. This is a part where I interrupt myself and quickly tell you that this video will have spoilers for the entirety of season 2, watch at your own discretion. Thoughts on The Boys season 1 are also available on the Spotify feed version of this podcast, just search for Kritigri FM. Have you gone back and listened to that one? Okay, I believe you. Good. Spoilers for that then. At the end of that episode of Thoughts On, I basically said that I hoped season 2 of this show wouldn't focus too much on the artificial super terrorist side of things they were teasing. And for the most part, this season did not focus on that. Instead, it continued to focus on the messages that it drives home the best, which is just how evil people in power can really be, no matter what nationality they are from, even if they're from, America, the so-called land of the free, or, Britain, which doesn't get shown in the show, but I'm just putting that out there as someone who's British, I wouldn't be surprised. You could have, for instance, a British superhero who has the power to heal people, but when questioned about why he's not helping people in the NHS overcome coronavirus, he'll say, it's just not time to talk about it yet. And then he could, I don't know, spend most of his time healing the already mostly healthy rich people who sit in Parliament all day long doing nothing. But I digress. This season of The Boys introduces Stormfront, someone who's initially shown to us as someone who revels in the social media side of things, who is very, self-effacing, who is almost likeable for a soup, and I think they really pushed that angle of her onto us with the fact that she kind of gets a bit chummy with Annie for a part of it. But then the show surprises us, or maybe just me, maybe I was gullible, I really should have seen this coming, by having her just fucking tear down an entire building full of innocent people to get to one of the artificially created so-called supervillains. And the show then does pivot to go on more about her relationship with Homelander, and basically full on go Nazi, and he's like, yeah, that's cool, I'm fine with it, because of course he is, he's an American hero who wears the flag for a cape. Once again, if you're one of those people who just wants to believe that this is a show that's just fun to watch because it has superheroes being badasses and it doesn't have any social or political commentary to it, I have to ask you to leave the room and get educated. But I digress. Season 1 obviously left off on a cliffhanger, and we got to see how that panned out, and I was legitimately thinking, how will Billy Butcher get out of this one? And the show did reveal it in a captivating way. It had you guessing, it had Billy lose part of his memory so that we had to guess along with him as he figured out what the fuck just happened. It also moves his particular plot threads ahead by several leaps and bounds. For instance, he finds his wife, he loses her again, he finds her again, he finds himself along the way. Oh wait, no he doesn't, he's still kind of a murderous piece of shit. I thought it was super interesting that they introduced Huey as the canary to his, miner's cage, so that he knows that if Huey dies, if his, little bird stops singing, then it means he's lost his way. And that's about the sum of a metaphor. I think I got it a little bit fuzzed up around there. I think it's interesting because I think he's already gone too far. He's already gone past the point of no return, and at no point in this series do I think he ever really comes back, because again, I just said, he's past the point of no return. He even realises it himself in the final episode and says that he doesn't want to push his bullshit onto the kid. And while in that final episode we do get maybe his true salvation moment, if there ever is one for him, in that he does decide to save the boy. The fact that we're talking about him sparing the life of an innocent boy just because he happens to have superpowers, I think that says everything you need to know about Billy Butcher. He's definitely an anti-hero if he's any kind of a hero, but I think the fact that they introduced Huey as his canary in season 2 midway through kind of indicates that maybe the writers have different views on the morality of this than I do. That doesn't mean to say I hate him as a character. He is an absolute delight to watch on screen. He might actually be my favourite character to watch. Him and Homelander, two glorious bastards. Homelander is like if you took Joffrey from Game of Thrones and made him a much bigger part of the show and spent more seasons fleshing out his madness and had him descend from a low point to an even lower point. So basically he's not like Joffrey at all. This is a terrible metaphor. What I'm trying to say is the entire season you are waiting for Homelander to lose it and just turn full on supervillain and just mow down an entire crowd. And one of the most terrifying scenes of this entire season is when he has that vision of himself doing that, when he tries to interrupt the protesters, and it literally cuts to him cutting down swathes of protesters, and it has like scenes of their bodies, like their smoking bodies and people screaming and running, and it does one of those tricks where you don't know that it's a vision that's just going on in his mind until it cuts away, which normally annoys me, but in the instance of The Boys, it's a show where it was actually believable, so it was actually shocking and a gut punch and like a holy shit. This is important because this is what goes on inside of his head all the time, or at least in this specific time, and probably more on going forwards. The dude is an absolute psychopath, and every time he is on screen, it's like you are just riveted, like what the fuck is he about to do next? He has control of every scene he's in, which is interesting because he's not really in control at all. He's constantly looking for someone to reaffirm him and what he's doing, and he finds that first in the doppelganger dude, and then secondly in Stormfront, and at the very end of season 2, when all of that has been taken away from him, we see him stood on the top of a skyscraper masturbating off into New York City going, I could do whatever the fuck I want, I can do whatever the fuck I want, which of course, infuriatingly for him, he can't, because so many people have him like, I'll release this video if you do this, and you know, if you do this, then I'll take this guy away, I won't tell you where your son is. A prevailing theme of this entire series is that the only way to have any power over superheroes is to blackmail them and to appeal to their own vanity. But still, you're just dreading the day when Homelander just loses all sense of consequence and just murders everyone. Heads exploded a lot this season. You had someone with the power to make heads explode, and it was revealed who she was at the end as a setup for season 3, which was interesting. I thought it was the person in the prison. There's a sequence towards the second half of this season where they break out, or they find Lamplighter, and they accidentally break out a bunch of soups who are like being experimented on, and one of them has the power to explode heads. And I'm fairly sure that was not the same person who we saw exploding heads at the end. So unless they also have the power to change their appearance at will, I don't know what's going on with that, because I'm pretty sure that character can't have just turned up and been in a position of power and importance immediately afterwards. I'll have to go back and rewatch and see, which I definitely won't do, I'll just assume. But I don't think that sequence of events would make sense. So maybe there's two of them with the same power, maybe they were experimenting on cloning the powers, maybe it is a shapeshifter, I don't even fucking know. We'll find out in season 3, I guess. Maybe I just didn't pay enough attention. But yeah, the stuff with Lamplighter was really interesting, seeing just how far he was gone, the moral corruption of that particular hero, what happened. We learned a lot more about the past, about what happened with Grace Mallory and her kids and Lamplighter, and how the whole situation got fucked up originally, and how the boys fell apart and all of that stuff. There was a lot in the season. I'm trying to remember all of it as I do this. I would have done it episode by episode, because I have this kind of rule where if it's a weekly release of episodes, then maybe I'll do a thoughts on of every single episode every week. But instead what Amazon did is this really annoying thing where they dropped the first 3 episodes altogether, so everyone assumed, oh, the whole season's out, and they binge watched 3 seasons, and then it was a hard stop, and now you're going to have to wait every week because we want you to pay monthly for our bullshit. The irony of this show being published by one of the most hateful companies on planet Earth is not lost on me. And there's some subplots I haven't really talked about, but that's because, I don't know, they were very subplotty to me. I enjoyed seeing them, I would have missed them if they weren't there, I'm sure, but what was going on with Frenchie and all of that kind of stuff, I mean, you know, it was fun to watch, but I don't really have much to say about it. It happened. It was integral to the main series plotline at the end. But, well, was it? In summary, though, this series has been absolutely fantastic. It might have even been better than the first season. I think it really just continued on an upward slope of, you know, intrigue and drama and television, even though we don't watch it on tellies these days. I'm just saying words at this point. It's filled the big what the fuck is going to happen next and who else is going to be murdered horribly hole in my heart that Game of Thrones left when it went away with a bit of a plop. I liked it though, don't tell anyone. I think it wasn't fantastic like it used to be, but it was still pretty good. Thank you for watching this thoughts on of season 2 of The Boys. Feel free to let me know about the major plotline I completely failed to discuss down below if you like. I'm sure there was one. I had to go back and re-record entire segments of The Legend of Korra season 2 stuff before I went to work, so that was fun. I mean, Huey almost died, and Stormfront was a century old, and Queen Maeve called Huey a twink several times and said she could snap him like he was made of dry wood, which was... whew. And a whole bunch of other stuff happened too, but if you're watching this, you watched the season as well, unless you're some kind of sociopath who likes to watch thoughts-ons of things that they haven't seen. Probably shouldn't insult you like that. Sorry, thanks for viewing my content. And I will see you, or hear you, or smell you in the next one. Until then, keep your heads on your shoulders.